Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for September 7th of 2023, and currently we have a slight risk extending from northern Virginia into New Hampshire, including the parts of western Pennsylvania and the majority of New York. We also do have a pretty long marginal threat that does extend into Canada all the way as far south as the Panhandle of Florida. We also do have a few other regions of severe weather development. We do have this marginal threat for Nebraska into southern South Dakota, as well as this marginal threat for Oklahoma, as well as this marginal threat for Louisiana that I likely won't really touch on at all in today's forecast. Our primary focus is going to be this slight risk and marginal threat that does extend a vast majority of the eastern United States region. As for our threats for today, we don't really have all that much of a tornado potential, and I will get into why that is. As for our wind threat, we do have a 15% wind threat for that slight risk region, which is going to be the primary threat for today. We do have 3 other 5% for those marginal threat regions. And as for hail, we do have a 15% for the slight risk. So it does seem that our primary threats for this slight risk is going to be damaging winds, as well as small to medium hail. Then we also do have a 5% hail threat for that marginal threat for Oklahoma. Taking a look at the tropics, primarily focusing on Hurricane Lee, I think as of right now, Hurricane Lee is a Category 2 hurricane. However, you can see that it does have a very long trek of major hurricane status. In fact, I think these two M's for 8 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. on Saturday is going to mean Category 5 status. However, do not be alarmed if you live in any of the areas that could be impacted by Hurricane Lee, as it is expected to weaken back down into a Category 4 for these other M's here, and then potentially weaken over time as it encroaches on the United States. It could weaken over time, but overall, I don't think that we're going to be seeing a Category 5 impact the United States. However, we could definitely see a hurricane impact the United States, primarily across the New England region, but also possibly across coastal regions of North Carolina. The models have been fairly indecisive about the path it's going to take. A lot of the models have been indicating that it could potentially impact some of the coastal regions of North Carolina, and then go back out to sea and then impact the New England region, primarily Long Island, and anywhere above that as well. However, it could possibly impact the North Carolina coastal regions, but it could also not impact the North Carolina coastal regions. That has been a huge question about Hurricane Lee the past couple of days, is if it's going to impact North Carolina. And the answer to that question is it's hard to tell as of right now, because again, the models have been fairly indecisive. But again, primarily the main region that you want to focus on that it is most likely going to hit out of North Carolina and the New England region is going to be the New England region. So do keep that in mind. Do stay weather alert and watch for updates if you do live in North Carolina along the coastal regions, as well as the New England region. Now taking a look at our severe weather potential for today, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do. You can see primarily focusing on the slight risk region for now. We don't really have all that much of a shortwave trough or anything that is expected to be passing through the region. However, you can see that we do have a fairly weak shortwave trough that is going to be making its way northward across the New England region. However, this isn't going to be the primary trigger for this severe weather development region for today, and I will get into it later in today's forecast, probably right after 500 millibars. But some of the regions that I do want to focus on for 500 millibars are primarily going to be the Oklahoma region, Nebraska into South Dakota, and Louisiana. You can see that we are expected to have a second trough that is expected to be moving southward. It is expected to pull the jet stream south again, just like yesterday, and trigger severe thunderstorms across the Louisiana area, as well as potentially trigger thunderstorms across the Oklahoma region as well. And you can see that we do have a trough that is expected to be moving eastward, and it is expected to trigger severe thunderstorms across the Nebraska into southern South Dakota region. You can see that trough there. So that is the primary triggering factor for these 3 marginal threat regions. And I will be touching on the slight risk region a little bit more in our temperature models. Taking a look at our temperatures, primarily focusing on the slight risk region with the marginal threat region that does extend across the eastern United States, you can see that we are expected to have that progressing cold front that is going to continue its trek eastward, and it did trigger severe thunderstorms the last 2 days, and it is going to continue to trigger severe thunderstorms today as well. You can see that we do have that cold front there. It is fairly prominent, so we are expected to see the primary threat of damaging winds and hail. However, with that weak shortwave trough that we had, we could see some elongated hodographs to support the potential for hail. However, without any sort of trough or anything to support directional shear, we shouldn't be able to see all that much of a potential for tornadoes across this region. Again, the primary threats are going to be damaging winds and small to medium hail across this region. But if you see these maroon colors, this does mean temperatures of 100 and above. I have said this in the last couple of forecasts, and any of these maroon colors that you are seeing are, again, temperatures that are going to be 100 and above. So mainly in Texas into Oklahoma and New Mexico. If you do live in any of these areas that are going to be seeing temperatures of 100 and above, do make sure you are definitely staying hydrated if you have any planes outside, with which I honestly do not recommend in temperatures this hot, as well as make sure you are watching out for any heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke, as they could be fairly common and deadly in temperatures this high. One thing I did forget to mention was that we are expected to see fall coming soon. This cold front is expected to drop temperatures across the Ohio Valley into the Dixie Valley, as far down as the 70s and 60s, and possibly getting very, very close to the 50s across northern Michigan. So we are expected to see a major decrease in temperatures across a large portion of the eastern United States. So we could definitely see a huge break from very hot summer temperatures and more fall-like temperatures. So we are expected to see a drop in temperatures and more fall-like temperatures in a vast majority of the United States. Taking a look at our dew points, mainly focusing on the marginal and slight risk region for now, you can see that we are expected to see dew points that are going to be pushed along by that cold front, with dew points that are going to be ranging anywhere from the upper 60s into the low 70s and possibly the mid 70s in some regions. This is going to allow for instability that could get up to the upper 2000s and maybe the low 3000s in some regions. However, behind that cold front, as I did mention, temperatures are expected to drop significantly to more fall-like temperatures, and we are expected to see a decrease in humidity as well. We are expected to see dew points that are going to drop down into the 50s and 60s and upper 60s across the Ohio Valley. We are going to be getting a break from dew points that are going to be in this vast 70s. So again, not only do we have a break of temperatures, but we also do have a break of humidity across the Ohio Valley. Taking a look at our instability, focusing on the marginal and slight risk regions, you can see that we are expected to see Cape values that are going to be ranging anywhere from those upper to mid 2000s into the mid 3000s in some regions. Mainly for the slight risk region, we are expected to see Cape values are going to be more so getting into those upper 3000s in some regions, possibly getting close to 4000s. As you can see that we do have a small region here of some 4000s and upper 3000s. So we are expected to see some fairly strong instability across this region, which will definitely support the possibility of small to medium hail, as well as the possibility of damaging winds as the primary threats for the storms for today. Again, with that trough, we could see the possibility of elongated hodographs to support the possibility of small to medium hail, but without any sort of trough to allow for directional shear, we aren't expected to see any threat for tornadoes across this region. Primary threats, again, are going to be damaging winds and small to medium hail. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas that I covered for today, please stay with the alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.